Well, hello, all my fans out there in Jill Powers' The River Darn Land. This is Jill Powers, and I am here for our friendly review of Fantastic Four Baby Steps, or something like that. First Steps. Yeah, okay. Same thing. Baby Steps. Well, First Steps. What have I got to say to you guys except I gave this the same rating that I gave Superman, and that's a 7. And once again, I'm going to remind people my grading scale may not be yours. 1 through 10 is also a 1 through 100. And a 7 is a 70. That's a solid C or C minus. Did it pass? Yeah, yeah. Would I want to go see it again? No. No, I wouldn't want to go see it again. The only way I would is if I was a big Fantastic Four fan, which you are, Paul Chato, and I liked Fantastic Four, but I wasn't that big a fan. Certainly not enough to collect. But then I'm a chick, so go figure. You know, being a boomer and being a chick, we generally did not participate in too much of the teen male fantasy world. But be that as it may, you did. It's fine. We had opposite reactions with Culture Casino. He didn't like it. There were a lot of things he didn't like it, especially leaving out a lot of Ben's character. It didn't really get developed, and he kind of looks funny, doesn't he? His head's real small in this, and someone said he looked like he was made of peanut brittle instead of orange rocks, which, I generally agree. But let's talk about the film overall, and then I will get into how this breaks down. First of all, I'm always going to look at the premise first. The premise, that is the thesis. How does this show carry through the thesis? Well, I thought it was average at best. Once again, like Superman, well, my husband's a big Superman fan, so he preferred Superman to Fantastic Four. And other people I know loved Fantastic Four and didn't like Superman as much. There's a wide gap between you guys, and I'm going to try to be objective either way. And since I'm not that big a comics book fans, I'm much more of a novel person, or I prefer epic. That's my preference as a former English professor. So, go figure. Not to mention the fact that I will try to be fair in the grading. I'm not going to get hyperbolically hysterical over little things. Even canon things I'm not going to get crazy about, okay? But let's talk about the thesis first of all, the premise. It's a bricolage, and what do I mean by that? It is a postmodern pastiche of a lot of nostalgic elements combined with modern elements, and there are some things that work, and there's some things that don't in that. You might recall Tarantino's postmodern pastiche. I argued back in the 90s as a Jeremiah, okay, because of the Ezekiel 25:17. There's no Ezekiel 25:17, okay? So that's what I mean. This universe doesn't exist. It's a comic book, and you have to remember that it's a comic book. It is not a novel. It is not Dante. It is not Homer. And we're going to get some Homer, and we're going to go over that when it happens. And I will be very, very critical of that because I actually taught the Iliad and the Odyssey in a class at University of North Texas. So, I know what I'm talking about, okay? So, it's a pastiche. It's lots of different elements that go into this storyline. First of all, what I saw, the aesthetic, aesthetic was wonderful. All of the 1960s retro stuff that was kind of neat to see. Um, Otherwise, it would be like watching the woodwork or paint drying on the wall, because pretty much this was a gynocentric type of team. You didn't see a whole lot of heroic action, maybe more from Johnny than Reed, certainly. And to be fair to Pedro Pascal, he's a fair actor. I just think that he was miscast as Reed Richards. He's just not Reed Richards, and I didn't think there was a lot of chemistry between him and I can't think of her name, that plays his wife, that Sue Storm. She she was okay. All of the actors were good actors. They just, the story. It's a remake of Rise of the Silver Surfer, but making Sue the center of attention here. She was already the center of attention in Rise in 2007, as having her wedding destroyed by Galactus. Okay, and there are other things there. Instead of the wedding this time, of course, we're focused on the baby. And the baby's going to be a very important element about this, because there are some good things about it, some bad things about it. I want to go over, first of all, the images that you see and the impressions that I got of all the different kinds of IPs that this director borrowed from in setting this up. The most important was when we were introduced to Galactus and he was chewing through worlds. And there are going to be some spoilers in here, so if you don't want spoilers, then don't listen to this. Turn this off and turn it on later after you've seen it. But anyway, the first and most important is Star Trek, the original series. Doomsday Machine from season 2 of the original series, the World Eater. Okay, this kind of a drill-like thing that sucks worlds in that I found most reminiscent, and those were really good writers writing for Star Trek, right? But we've got some other Star Trek IPs here as well, and so it's not alone in just that episode as being a world-ending type of event. It's World Eater. Another one that's a World Eater is V'ger. That's from the motion picture. Okay, remember that Earth's existence is threatened by V'ger, and it's their own fault for sending the thing up themselves. Another Star Trek IP from 1986, The Voyage Home. Yes. Oh, how do we take from Star Trek The Voyage Home the slingshot around the sun? And we use that again with the Borg episode with the Next Generation movie as well. So you can see there's a lot of Star Trek-y stuff in this. And of course, cannot forget, the most important of these is the 2007 Rise of the Silver Surfer. Guys, why did you have to sex swap? Why did you have to gender swap Silver Surfer with his girlfriend? You did away with the canon. You're not respecting the fans when you do that kind of thing. And that's the kind of thing that pisses off people like Culture Casino. Not liking this, I can understand. It's kind of a snub. And you're trying to check boxes for DEI, and that's not good. Okay, I can say as a chick, I'm not offended by her, but the performance, the whole motivation, she has no conscience about destroying all these other worlds and lives, and when she's shown, it's more of a reaction of rage, and then she turns against him. But anyway, that's a spoiler. I don't want to spoil too much of that. Okay. Um, I was reminded of the introduction of Ted Gilbert's show when he introduces the Fantastic Four. Oh, they're so wonderful. They're so great. Everybody loves them. They're world famous. Blah blah. This reminded me a bit of Walton Goggins' introduction in Fallout. Only he has no role like Walton Goggins did as the Ghoul. Okay, he had a very important part in that, and was part of that whole Fallout universe. This guy, he's just a media guy, okay, and his job is just puff them up, and then later, with the rest of the media tearing them down, kind of like he did with Superman. He was a hero for 30 years, and then they weren't, okay, and that's the mob for you. We're going to talk about the mob, and that's going to involve some of what we want to talk about, the end of the world, another world-ending type of thing with Ghostbusters. Galactus is kind of a Gozer-like character, very briefly, roughing up the city like he's Godzilla or King Kong, but very brief. He's a paper tiger as far as I'm concerned. I mean, he's a big deal, but he's not a big deal. Another one, Independence Day. The aliens that attack the Earth, and they're like locusts. They consume everything. Okay, so that's another one. All of these kind of world-ending events, though, I think get rather tiresome. And this is a great thing about the series of Batman, the original 1966 series with Adam West. Every week they had a new villain, and sometimes they had the recurring ones like the Penguin or Joker or Riddler or Catwoman, but they had a lot of others like Egghead that you saw briefly, with Vincent Price. But this is the thing. These type of things are. This is like a puzzle. Okay, it's like a puzzle of all these different kinds of IPs that I saw coming out of this, and I just thought, well, the problem is it just gets to be so tiring that they can't fight local crime. The Penguin is a local figure. Okay, when Batman fights him, or when Gotham fights him, or whenever who is fighting who, it's not world ending, and it's catastrophic enough when you have a supervillain like Dr. No, something like Charles Graves' character in Diamonds Are Forever. Those kind of characters, some of them are they're at least continentally threatening, which in 1978's Superman, it's a real estate deal for Lex Luthor. Okay, it doesn't threaten the whole world, and like Dr. Doom says in the 2007 Rise of the Silver Surfer, well, I'm just going to cooperate because you know what? A destroyed Earth doesn't do any of us any good here, who are Earth dwellers. So yeah, he's helping them, but with an eye of helping himself. So you've got that. I did not think that Mole Man was a good substitute for them. Julian McMahon was just brilliant as Dr. Doom. And I've got to tell you, I was a fan of his since Nip Tuck. And this character, it just did not impress me at all. It was rather comical. It's kind of silly. It just served the purpose. Oh, let's take all the terrestrials and put them in subterranean, and that's that we could save them. Well, as it said, no, you can't. Don't you remember what we told you? We found him in the middle of a world eating it from the inside out. So, what good would that do? Yeah, it might make you feel better, but it's not going to solve your problem, right? So we had some other silliness like the transporter that was disrupted, and uh, the whole transporter thing. I thought that was incredibly incredibly dumb, but that's just me. Okay, I know we have to work with suspension of disbelief and all of that, but anyway, come to the gynocentric part, and this is a couple of woke things that we need to address here besides the silver smurfette. Okay, um, gun control is mentioned. Oh no, we need to give all of our guns. And then you have this giant alien coming in who is a supervillain who's going to destroy the world. What are you going to destroy him with? If you don't have any guns. Okay, well, tanks and aircraft don't do any gun against these things. We saw this in Superman. I get it, but to say that you should be totally disarmed, that's to allow governments to use you and abuse you, and they will because they can. Okay? Be that as it may, there are going to be people who disagree with me. Fine, fine, disagree with me. I don't care. I'm a Texan. I'm a native Texan. And I don't make any bones about that. That I believe in the Second Amendment. That is our right to defend ourselves. You know, just because guns are around doesn't mean that it's being used. My guns have never shot anybody. I guarantee you. And I go by very strict gun rules when I do. So, anyway, the crowd. Give us Barabbas. Where do we know that from? Oh, yes, the greatest story ever told. This baby is not just a baby, it's a super baby. Only minus the Bible. It is like Kubrick's 2001 Space Odyssey. This is a star child. It is a unicorn, a freak of nature, being the offspring of Reed and Sue. And for whatever reason, I still don't get how this super child can satisfy the hunger of Galactus. Is he going to eat the baby? Does that mean that he is really just a great big old pedophile who wants to suck his adrenochrome? I I don't know. I came up with that because I was just going, what is the purpose of one little baby? You've eaten scads of babies, okay? Not to mention all of their adults and everybody else. Why is this baby so special? You never fully explain that, okay? How is this a star child? Of course, Dave is the regenerated star child. Okay, regeneration is part of this. So, the baby, Franklin, is the chosen one. Yes, he's a Harry Potter. He's a lightning child. He is a Christ child. Some of you may not like to hear that, but he is. He is a chosen one. And Sue is kind of a Virgin Mary figure here. She sacrifices herself, right? Spoiler alert. When the crowd finds out, they basically say, "Give us Barabbas." They don't, you know, you're sacrificing all of us for this one baby of yours that you could just give to him and he would be satisfied. How do you know that he'd be satisfied? Just because he told you that? You would give up your own child for, you know, mass approval? I mean, I never had any babies of my own. I've got 5 stepchildren, ages 21 through 45, but I love all of them equally. I don't discriminate against any of them because some are older or less old than others. But the point is, no parent's going to sacrifice their child just so other people can approve of them. If you do, you've got a screw loose, obviously, and you're a terrible parent. Anyway, that's my opinion. But it's Star Child. Give us Barabbas. Um, the media and mobs suck. You guys suck. Everything is about clicks and popularity with you. You don't give a shit about anybody else's families. And this is a very much a nuclear family. This is the non-woke part of this, and I think this is why it is appealing to a lot of people. It is because of that. It's because of the retcon. There is a lot of gear porn in it, so that part is good. But anyway, do I see anything else? I think I'm just about mentioned everything that I need to about that. But the point is that I think that some people, if you're a fan of comic books in this IP in particular, that of Fantastic Four, you're going to enjoy this movie regardless of some of the naughtiness of it. Um, I can see how that would have accessed these other IPs as world enders, but they don't have to be that catastrophic, and that's something that I do agree with on some other counts. Anyway, be that as it may, there was one other biblical element about that, and that is the Lazarus effect. That this is why I said this is a Christ baby. Okay, just that's the big spoiler right there. Um, that evoked a tear from me, and that for me is enough to give me an emotional jolt to give it the 7, and like I said, it's 70. It had some problems, like Superman, not terrible ones. They're not terrible, but it, for me it was meh. It was okay. Anyway, that's enough for today. And if you have any questions, leave me some comments. Please like and subscribe. Hit those buttons, please. I love the algorithm. Thank y'all so much, and we'll see you later in Kilgore, Texas. Bye.